I want to get right to Omicron. As you know now, the dominant strain here in the U.S., Dr. Fauci now says it could account for up to 90% of all new cases by just next week. The CDC now warning Americans that we could see peaks that we haven't seen so far in this pandemic. I know just before we sat down here, the FDA has now authorized the first COVID pill, the first antiviral pill from Pfizer. 89% effective at preventing hospitalizations and death. The obvious question for you, Mr. President, is how much has the government purchased? How much is ready to go right away?
We've purchased several million already, but here's right away, I think don't hold me to the number, I think it may be 20 million, but a lot of pills, all they can make so far. But you know, I hope we don't get there, because if people get the shots, they get their 2 shots and a booster, they're not going to be in a position where they're going to need such a pill.
Do you have any idea how quickly the American people will actually see these pills? How soon we're going to be able to get them to hospitals that are already seeing patients?
The answer is, I think it'll be a matter of weeks to a month to get the pills, but it won't be enough to get to all the hospitals. We could order a lot more of those pills. We now have to order millions of those pills.
We learned just before we sat down together here that Omicron has now been detected in all 50 states. And you told the American people just yesterday that we are prepared for what's coming. But 3 days before Christmas, if you look out across the country, you see it everywhere, these long lines, people waiting for hours outside in the cold just to get tested, to be reassured before they spend time with their family. I saw it in Washington today coming to the White House. If you go to the pharmacy, we hear this over and over again, empty shelves, no test kits. Is that a failure?
No, I don't think it's a failure. I think it's, you could argue that we should have known a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, a month ago. I've ordered 500 million of the pills, 500 million pills. 500 million test kits that are going to be available to be sent to every home in America if anybody wants them. But the answer is, yeah, I wish I had thought about ordering 500 million pills 2 months ago before COVID hit here.
But we're nearly 2 years into this pandemic. You're a year into the presidency. Empty shelves and no test kits in some places, 3 days before Christmas when it's so important. Is that good enough?
No, nothing's been good enough. But look where we are. When last Christmas we were in a situation where we had significantly fewer people vaccinated. Emergency rooms were filled. You had serious backups in hospitals that were causing great difficulties. We're in a situation now where we have 200 million people fully vaccinated. 200 million people fully vaccinated. And we have more than that who have had at least one shot. And they're getting these booster shots as well. So we've moved along, and the CDC is still saying, and the docs who advise me on this are still saying, if you are tested, if you know where you are in terms of having gotten the shots, there's no reason why you can't get together with your family and your friends. We couldn't do that last Christmas.
Let me ask you about what Dr. Fauci said. I think it was a week ago today about the so-called neutralizing antibodies. He said after 2 shots, it did wane over some period of time, and that it was only after the booster that you got back into that protective zone. So are you talking about gatherings with people who had both vaccinations, both shots, and the booster?
That's the safest thing you can do, both shots and the booster.
Let me ask you about what you said on July 4th. I know you remember it well. You told the American people we're closer than ever to our independence from a deadly virus. Do you think you overpromised? No,
we were closer than ever. But there's a lot we don't know. It's like, I'm sure you're going to ask me, when's this going to end? How are we going to do this? Are we certainly going to be able to overcome the Delta virus, the virus, COVID-19? The answer is, the expectation is yes, because we have the best scientists in the world. We're moved so rapidly compared to other countries. But we don't know. We don't know for certain. So that's why.
What would you say to some Americans who might say, this feels like we're chasing Omicron instead of being ahead of it, fully prepared for it?
Well, look, Omicron only really came on the scene just before Thanksgiving. We weren't talking about Omicron 6 months ago, but it's just recent. And so we are chasing Omicron. But the fact of the matter is, you're chasing whatever comes on the scene that wasn't there before. And this wasn't there this last summer, for example.